Penguin Random House Audio presents Over on the Dry Side by Louis L'Amour. Postscript by Beau L'Amour. Read for you by Kirby Heyborne and Oliver Wyman with Jason Culp. Chapter 1. All that spring, I was scared. Why Pa ever took a notion to stop on that old Chantry place, I never did know. Maybe it was because he was just tired and wishful of stopping someplace, any place. There'd been a dead man on the steps by the door when we drove up. He'd been a long time dead, and nobody around to bury him, and I was scared. The cabin was strong. It was built mighty solid-like. Whoever had shaped it up and put it together had planned to stay. That was before the Indians come. There's nobody inside, and the place was all tore up, of course. It had been vacant for weeks probably, maybe even months. That man had been dead a long time. There wasn't much left but torn skin, dried out like old leather, and bones. His clothes was some tore up and all bloody. Pa, he stood there looking down at him a long time. "Don't seem logical," he said at last. "What's that, Pa?" "Indians most usually take a body's clothes. They ain't taking nothing from him. His pockets is inside out. I was seeing that, boy. It do make a body think." He turned. "Boy, you run out to the wagon and get my shovel. We got a buryin' to see to." He stepped around the body and pushed wide the cabin door. That door had been half open, and Pa looked in like he feared what he might see, but like I said, there wasn't nothing to fear. When I come in later, I saw just what he saw. A bed with two sides nailed to the outside wall, a table, two chairs, all mighty well made by a man with lovin' hands for wood. Pa always said you could tell a man who loved wood by the way things were fitted and dressed, nothing halfway but smooth and nicely done. Pa couldn't do that sort of work himself, but he had admiration for it, and it made me feel like working at it until I was good. If fine work impressed Pa so much, there must be something to it. I never had no craft, boy. I worked hard all my life, but never had no craft. Just a few sleights I picked up handling heavy things and the like. I do admire a man who does fine work. It is a pleasure to look upon. We taken that dead man out to the hill back of the house, and we dug us a grave. When we'd dug it down, we laid that body in a blanket, covered it around him sweet and neat, and then we lowered him easy into the ground, and Pa said a few words from the book. I never did know how Pa come to so much knowing of the book, because I never did see him reading much in it. We filled in the grave, and Pa said, "Come tomorrow, we'll make him a marker." "How'll you know what to say? We ain't sure who he is." "No, we ain't. But they do call this the Chantry place, so I reckon his name must be that." Pa stopped there, leaning on his shovel like. "What'll we do now, Pa? It's late to be starting on." "This here's it, son. This place here. We ain't going no further. You know, son, I ain't been much of a success in my time. Fire burned me out back to home, and we lost everything. In Missouri, the grasshoppers ate it all up, and in Kansas it was hail. But you know I never was much hand at picking land. Your grandpap now, he knowed land. He could look at what growed there, and he knew. He could ride over land at a gallop and tell you which was best, but me, I was a all-fired, smart youngster, and no old man was going to tell me anything. I just knowed it all already, so I never learned. Son, I got to admit it. Every piece of land I picked was poor. Sure, we lost out to grasshoppers, hail, and the like, but those places never would have made it, no way. Now this here, some other man picked this. I heard talk of Chantrys, and they were knowing folk. The man who built this house, he was a knowing man. He had a craft. So I reckon maybe he picked himself a right good piece of land. So this here is it. We just ain't a-going no farther. We cleaned out the cabin. We mopped and we dusted like a couple of women, but she was spick and span when we finished. The shed and the stable were solid built, and there were good tools in the shed, leaning just like that dead man must have left them. Right close to the house was a spring not more'n 30 feet away. Good cold water, too. Never tasted no better. There was a field stone wall around that spring, maybe 8-10 foot back from it, so a body could get water and go back to the cabin, leaving himself open to fire only in front. Even that was partly protected by a swell of the ground. The cabin had a good field all around, and a corral joined the house to the barn. The horses had been run off, and whatever other stock he might have had, but we pulled our wagon close and we unloaded. Not that I liked it much. Fact was, I didn't like it at all. Every time we stepped out of that cabin, we stepped over where that dead man had lain. I never liked that. Pa said, "Pay it no mind, son. That man would admire to see folks using what he built. No man with the craft builds to throw away. He builds to use and to last, and it would be a shameful thing to leave it die here all alone. Ain't no neighbors, Pa. We don't need neighbors right now. We need time and hard work. If this here land's rich as I think, neighbors will come. Only when they do, they'll find a fair piece of it staked out and marked for weans. Maybe those Indians will come back." He just looked at me. "Boy, your pa ain't as smart as some, but I'm smart enough to know that Indians take the clothes off a dead man because they need 'em." "His clothes wasn't taken," I said, wanting to argue with him. "You bet. His clothes wasn't taken, but something else was. You notice his pockets, boy? They were inside out. They surely were. Now, boy, somebody wanted what was in that man's pockets. Money and the like. Indians this part of the country don't set much store by money. They want goods. They want things. Ain't no money in them wigwams." "You mean it wasn't Indians?" "Seen no moccasin tracks, boy. But I seen boot tracks aplenty. Those who killed that man weren't Indians. They was white men." We were eating supper when Pa said that, and it give me a chill. If it wasn't no Indian, then we were in trouble, 'cause a man can tell an Indian. He can spot him right off, but a bad white man? How you going to tell until he's bad? I said as much. Pa, he just looked at me and said, "Boy, you see strangers around, you come tell me, you hear? But you see 'em first, and when you do, you get clean out of sight." Wasn't much time for thinking about things, because we worked. Seemed like Pa felt he owed something to the dead man, because he worked a sight harder than I ever seen him before. It was work from can see to can't see for Pa and me. We measured out 4 sections of land, 4 square miles of it, field, forest, meadow, and stream. We had seed corn and some vegetable seeds. We planted 40 acres to corn, and of an acre we made a vegetable garden. One reason we taken that corner, because there was berries in it. But I never did forget that dead man. The stranger, when he came, was alone. He was one man riding. He was a slim, tall man.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?